I was about to go to sleep. I clicked on this. Do cook kneecap from some Irish band. I don't know, apparently. I'll tell you what, eh? Come back down here. I watched about half of it. What a common sense place to come from. I'm in the same mind. Why do we have to take a side? Why can't we just take the side of what's right and what's wrong? Why can't we just take a moral side? Why do we have to pick Israel or Gaza or whatever? I'm sorry, but I don't pick the side of any government. I think they're all grubs. I pick the side of humanity. I pick the side of right over wrong. And what's going on is wrong. Wouldn't matter who it was perpetrating against who. Like, the sooner we just figure that out, the sooner we figure that out as a whole, the sooner we can walk away from this bullshit. Don't get trapped into these stupid conversations of who do you support? Do you support this side or that side? I support the side of innocent people who are being hurt. I support those people. What did they ever do?
Is he here?
No, he bottled it. He was supposed to
The
come on, but
manager?
he's bottled it, the manager.
Their manager had the audacity to say that people were thanking them for bringing this to their attention.
Yeah.
Now, you'd have to be deaf, dumb, or blind, living in America, not know what's going on in the Middle East.
Yeah, well, let's play a clip from that manager.
Before any Fox News or before any Sharon Osbourne or before Keir Starmer and all your politicians coming out saying kneecap, we got a message from an extremely well-known person in the music industry offering us to travel to America and to be educated on the Middle East, which we basically responded, go fuck yourself. So it was never, to them it was about, can we bring you into the camp, and if we can't, we're going to try and shut you down and kill you. And they failed.
Next up we have Dan Lambert, who is the manager of a band you may have heard of, called Kneecap. He is the COO... Wait till he gets up here. The COO of Bohemian FC. He's a former advisor to the United Nations. He may not be, so he says, a media expert, but you can imagine that he has had to deal a lot with the media. So, Dan.
Just before, I've written some notes and it said there, like, I'm not a media expert, but I just saw when I was looking at my phone there, 29 people were killed in Gaza in the last couple of hours. Thankfully, RTE, the Irish state broadcaster, reported that this is from Gaza health officials and don't attribute the word Hamas to anything coming out of the health services in Gaza, and it just shows, the differences in how things are reported. I think, like, in terms of challenging like a propaganda machine, I'm not the person to say how we do that, but what I'll give you, I suppose, is that in the last 8 months, since Nika played at Coachella in April of 2025, there has been a extremely and continuing well orchestrated, well funded and international campaign to take the band down. It continues to this day, and I've learned a lot from it, I think, and I think that there's some things that we have done that have proven to be effective, and they might be useful for other people. The point I said a second ago, like when in Ireland you can watch the BBC or listen to the BBC, and I listen to the BBC Radio 6 to listen to music. I think it's a great music station. But often in my day, I'll start the morning by putting on RTE, and I'm not a supporter of RTE. I think there is bias in what RTE carries, the Irish state broadcaster. And even notwithstanding the bias that they have, the difference in what I hear reported in the morning between RTE and BBC, I might as well live on a different planet, because RTE actually, to a large extent, and not fully, reports facts from Gaza, and the BBC does not. And it's unbelievable on an island like Ireland, and when you even think of the occupied part of the island in the north, that you could have neighbours who literally live opposite each other and could listen to two different news sources who are both coming from state broadcasters and hear an entirely different narrative. It's really eye-opening. I'd urge anyone, if you get a chance in the morning, just listen to the BBC news and then listen to the Irish news. And I suppose, like, why is that? like Irish people, we are the only victims of colonialism in Europe, and we have a natural. You don't, as an Irish person, choose Palestinian solidarity. It's just inherent in who we are. On our island, there's been brutal crimes, most of them committed by Britain for centuries, and I suppose there's that natural kind of understanding of what oppression looks like, of what forced famine looks like, and of what the kind of security apparatus backed up by a state can do. And thankfully in Ireland there is no vested interest in any war machine, although there's continuous efforts to try and push us into NATO. All public opinion in Ireland is that we don't want to join NATO, and that's to be celebrated. But I think there's three things that I've kind of learned, and I'll outline them, and I said it might be of help. The first one is refusing to get drawn into pointless kind of gotcha moments that the legacy media undertake. And an example, I went on several interviews in Ireland, and the whole thing they wanted to do was to kind of rest on this point where they'll start the conversation by saying to you, on a live TV debate, do you condemn Hamas? Do you condemn Hezbollah? And the whole idea then is to set the narrative for the rest of the interview that you have denied the legally enshrined right to armed resistance. And it's a pointless position. My opinion on anybody in terms of an organisation or a group, whether I support, condemn, that's totally irrelevant. But it serves to frame conversations, and we refuse to get into that place. And I said on several of them, they don't bring on somebody representing Israel, and they don't demand that they condemn the IDF, and demand that then they condemn the IDF and not proceed with the interview on that basis. You'll never see that happen. And I suppose what our answer to that was, whether we condemn something or not is irrelevant. It's can we understand why after 70 years of a brutal occupation, people would resort to armed resistance as a last resort. That's the key part of understanding. And I suppose, built onto that is, do we understand why somebody would be driven to armed resistance when the rest of the world continuously talks about international laws that one country can just absolutely refuse to engage with, and that's accepted by all governments in the West? I think as part of that kind of refusal to be drawn on the gotcha moment, you can just expose the aim of the conversation, and that's to repeatedly bring it back, I suppose, to some undeniable facts. I'll merge it just into football for a second here, because this has happened recently. Bohemians, we put forward a motion to the FAI in Ireland, which is the equivalent of your football FA, and we put forward a motion that we wanted the FAI to call on UEFA to kick Israel out of the organisation, and it passed by 92%. And in bringing forward that motion and lots of interviews in the last few weeks, the approach of a lot of the media was, well, there's a ceasefire. Well, there isn't a ceasefire. That's irrelevant. Another point they'd make was, is this not damaging? And although it was very tempting to get drawn into those conversations, the reason we brought the motion was that Israel is an absolute breach of a UEFA statute, which states that there cannot be teams playing on occupied territories. It's a very good rule, and it basically prevents, for instance, me setting up a football team in Wales and Wales playing in the Irish Premier Division. That can't happen. It can only happen with the explicit approval of both countries and with the approval of both FAs and with UEFA blessing. Right now there are 7 Israeli teams that play on occupied lands. It's an undeniable fact, and the penalty for that UEFA statute breach is expulsion. It's in the rules already. There doesn't need to be any conversation. It's just a fact. They have 7 teams playing, they have to be expelled, and the last time that was brought in was actually during apartheid in South Africa, where they were expelled immediately for practicing apartheid, and that's another part of it. But in every conversation, it was, tried to be drawn to a ceasefire, that this was somehow anti-Semitic, and none of those things are true. The fact is, there's a rule book, Israel in breach of it right now. In the rule book, there's a penalty, that's the penalty, and nobody is willing to call that out. And I think that it's kind of, it was frustrating in a way to say, I'm not here to speak about Gaza, I'm not here to speak about what's happening, I'm not here to speak about a ceasefire or not, actually just here to speak about something that's quite boring, the UEFA rule. But the rule is broken, and it left nowhere for them to go. And I did an interview on RTE where they had another guy, and he tried to continuously bring it back to opinion on October 7th, opinion on genocide or not, as he wanted to go into, and I just tried to keep it to that one singular point, and it's really effective. And I think that with kneecap, you know, was a total distraction. Like essentially, we go and play Coachella, the lads go up on stage and they say to a young audience of predominantly young Americans that the US is funding an arm of the genocide, and if they stop doing that, that the genocide would end tomorrow. Just a factual comment. It gets a cheer, it got a lot of applause, and I think the risk was never an ECAP. We're not big enough. There was other artists there, and I often say, like, well done to an artist who puts a Palestine flag on stage. It's better than not doing anything, but it doesn't achieve anything. You have to be willing to take risk, and the lads did that. And I think what they saw was, what if next year at Coachella that was the artist with 20,000 or 50,000, and that then became a threat to Zionism itself. They lose the support of America, they'll start to lose that support by losing the support of young people. And then suddenly you had the emergence directed from the US, and it was interesting the point raised a second ago. Before any Fox News or before any Sharon Osbourne or before Keir Starmer and all your politicians coming out slating kneecap, we got a message from an extremely well-known person in the music industry offering us to travel to America and to be educated on the Middle East, which we basically responded, go fuck yourself. So there. So it was never, to them it was about, can we bring you into the camp, and if we can't, we're going to try and shut you down and kill you. And they failed. And I think that the reason, and I only have a minute left here, but it's an important point, and I just want to say it for the lads and who they are. The threat that was put against the band was that we're going to remove, through the media, facilitated by the Daily Mail and lots of others and Sky News, that we are going to basically take away your ability to earn income. That doesn't bother the lads. If you walk through West Belfast, if I walk through Dublin or London, a lot of young people's heroes are on billboards as people who are famous or have resources or they've made a lot of money or have a fancy car. Walk through Belfast and the people on the side in West Belfast of the buildings are people who are probably dead, and they probably died for something that meant more than money. They stood for something, and that's what the lads stand for. And the last point I was going to raise, I don't have enough time, but something that bothers me continuously, and we need to highlight it more, and I think it plays a role in deconstructing the legacy media, is this idea of a singular narrative. So, you know, in the 1980s, Muammar Gaddafi was funding the IRA. He was a very controversial figure internationally, but RTE, the state broadcaster, sent a news team. They sat with Gaddafi in a Bedouin tent and they spoke to him, and he gave his view. By going there, they weren't showing support for him. They were giving his view to the people of Ireland, and you could make up your own mind, and that is never done today. If I watch a report, whether it's on Iran, whether it's on Ukraine, whether it's on Palestine, I hear from Netanyahu and I hear from Trump, and I never hear from other people. And it's not to say you need to support the Ayatollah, you need to support Putin, you need to support Hamas or Hezbollah, but we get a singular narrative only. No conversation is afforded, and it's almost as if the citizens of the country are too stupid to differentiate, and we're only provided with one narrative, and that should be called out continuously, in my opinion.
Spot on. Spot on. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Inequality is given.
Man, absolutely spot on. Is that a human or cat out there? What are you up to, panda? Who's? What about your shithead? Alright, I'm going to bed. Night.